everyone. Welcome back again. Another game, another win, another instant reaction presented to you by Noles247.com. The pinnacle, the apex, the summit of all things FSU coverage. Florida State 9-0, 24-7 win on the road. Short-handed victory against the Pittsburgh Panthers. They are 9-0. They have secured their place in the ACC championship game, did exactly what they needed to do. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit how the sausage is made. Obviously, I'm joined by Kevin and Adam. You see us on the X's and Noles. You see us on the instant reaction. My two calm, cool, analytical, nuanced. They're unflappable. I will tell you, they are the biggest panic merchants in the group chat. My word, first quarter, second quarter, the loss is coming, yada, yada, yada. And it did look bad. But as we've seen, time in, time out, it's not always fun for the fan, but you have to play this Florida State team for 60 minutes because they cannot be killed. They are the lady falling out of the building in Austin Powers 2 after being shot by the bazooka. They cannot be killed. They take their punches. They have inconsistent drives offensively. Maybe they'll give a bust or two on defense, but dude, over 60 minutes, however many possessions, they are never going to stop coming. They are a zombie movie. They are a slasher. They are the slasher killer. They just never
slinging slasher.
Absolutely, just like what my friend Kevin said, the slinging slasher. They are absolutely hit him in the head with a baseball bat, golf club to the face, shanked in the leg. It doesn't matter. The final act, they're coming with the machete, and they're coming for your life. So it was it depends on where you guys want to start. I'm going to let my two co-hosts give their initial thoughts of the game. It's just, once again, another kind of like a culture victory, dude. Another just relentless, resilient, impressive response from this team because they did not have their best stuff with Johnny and Keon gone whatsoever. Adam, you go ahead. Initial thoughts, and then I think after Kev gives his, let's start with the defense. Let's keep it positive.
Oh, my initial thoughts on the defense?
No, give your initial thoughts on the entire game, and then I think we can dive deep on the defense first. Then we'll get to all the offensive stuff.
I think my initial thoughts are, if I knew that Keon and Johnny weren't going to play, that this is kind of the score I would predict, knowing what's kind of going on there at the wide receiver room and how many guys are banged up. My biggest frustration and aggravation is I thought last week you took a step as an offensive line, and then this week I felt, well, I don't even know, maybe it's an offensive line is the correct phrase. You took a step in the run with the run game, maybe the fourth quarter of Duke when you got Jordan involved and he was running around like crazy, and then last week against Wake Forest, you popped them on a couple of runs also, but it just felt like the offensive line was kind of finding their way and gelling a little bit more, and you were starting to move people somewhat, to the extent that this group, their talent level is going to allow them to do. And then today it just was like, hey, come get us. And I just felt like my frustration was the offensive line. I felt like, and I've spent so much of my time watching that group that it's hard to feel like, oh, this is going well, because it's not really going that well for them up front throughout most of the game. So yeah, I was aggravated with what they were able to, or what they were not able to accomplish with that front. And, Pitt's going to be attacking. They're going to come downhill. You just feel like you're going to be able to pop a couple runs on them. And, late in the game, they were able to do that. Obviously the big Trey Benson touchdown run. It's great to see Trey get that.
Yep.
As everybody and their brother has been clamoring for Lawrence Toafili and everybody else to run the football. Trey Benson reminds you what he can do every game with at least one touch. So he stacked a good week last week onto this one with that big run. Ultimately, my overall thoughts are, like, I thought the defense was going to do this. This is what I kind of expected. Was a little disappointed that Fentrell Cypress was kind of getting attacked and picked on, and they were able to get a couple assignment busts out of him, and we'll look at that more on tape. But offensively, man, its offensive line just continues to kind of disappoint, and that's aggravating.
Well, 500 total yards against a Pitt defense that I think we acknowledge is pretty good, like top 40, top
Yeah.
50. So not about the level of the Wake Forest defense. They
Yeah.
do it a little bit differently. They're worse against the pass,
Yep.
and they are actually pretty solid stopping the run and stopping the explosive run game. So this is one, and they on the ground, to your point, Adam, 137 attempts, only 138 yards, 3.7 per. Pitt really bottled them up. They really did. Now, this was a game going in. It was. I expected a similar game plan to last week. Not to jettison the run game, but you know what, dude? Just lean on your passing game. Just they're bad at defending the pass. They give up a lot of mixed tackles. Very good, no boy Rex. Noles 124/7 for Noles 247. Absolutely. I'm sure that's why Mike didn't want to score that last touchdown at the end. It was solely for us. I agree. But the thing is, and I think they would have done it too, and I think they would have been more effective. It was just one of the worst low-level teams to have your wide receivers out against. I'm with you. They could not get the run game going. They try to do it a variety of different ways, and they're just I don't know. I just don't think they're a competent running team. They can out-depth you, and they can wear you down, and they can pop an explosive. And that Trey Benson run, like you said, was the dagger. That's what killed it, but it is what it is. That's a good point. They didn't really run the tempo and the spread stuff. There was a lot of compressed formations early. If you listen, you know we don't like it. We don't like it at all. But Kev, maybe give your initial thoughts and maybe what'd you think of the offensive game plan with your receivers out? Did we put our guys in the best position to win? They did win, but what did you think, at least early, and how it progressed?
Yeah, I think the Blue Chicken said it here. Are you shocked that FSU went tempo and played 4 wide? Benson popped his long run, right? So they really want Morlock to be an inline blocking tight end, and same with Bell. And they have their moments, but that's not the strength of the team. And they're not the only culprits. There was, like AB was talking about, the offensive line didn't have their best day. But when they did open it up and spread things out, they got a couple shot throws. They were able to kind of get underneath those safeties that were trying to take away the deep ball. They were covering you pretty well deep. So most of the success throwing came when they were able to get over the linebackers, under the safety there, on little like posts and deep pitches. And when they went to that, they had a little RPO game going that they hit 3 or 4 times for big chunk yardage. And to me, it was a little frustrating because you kind of knew they had that, right? That was there. And in the first half, it felt like, and even a lot of parts in the second, it was like they were just burning plays trying to get counter to go, or trying to get outside zone to go, out of these like compressed formations, trying to kind of play their brand of football, which I get. You're the number 4 team in the country. You should be able to do whatever you want against 2-6 Pittsburgh, but they couldn't. And when they couldn't, they would burn one down. And then you're having to ask Jordan Travis to consistently get 3rd and 8s. And so you're, stalling on a lot of drives in this first half because it's just not working. And then when they finally just said, all right, we're going to, throw the ball, we're going to try to get those RPOs going. And to be fair, they did hit those 2 fades to Ja'Kai Douglas, against
wonderful throws. Wonderful throws.
Throwback to 2020, 2021 Keyshawn Helton slot fade days.
Oh, Ja'Kai Douglas is a freshman. Yeah.
Miami,
Notre Dame, Ja'Kai Douglas.
Kev, the one thing I would add on to what you were kind of saying, though, and we said it in our group text, was that it felt like JT maybe missed a couple reads on some RPOs early out of those compressed formations. Like, if you've watched Pitt, like trying to get one-on-ones with their safeties having to come from 10 yards is a way to attack them, which is why you ran some of those compressed formations, because you wanted the outside zone with the RPO going the opposite way to Bell or to whomever on that little arrow route. And we've seen them have success with that in the past, and it's just felt like that. I don't know. We'll see it better when we watch it on film review, but for whatever reason, it just didn't seem like JT wasn't pulling and throwing those. They were forcing the handoff there. So that was aggravating, because it seemed like a couple times that the arrow was open and he just gave it off anyway on some short yardage stuff. And it got stuffed. Like, I mean, I think if this offensively, if Toafili doesn't fumble, and you get points. What was it, a 94-yard drive? I was in the car for that one, so I didn't see.
No, it was a good drive, dude. And that was the beginning of the game where the name of the game was on offense. They wasted too many possessions at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of careless with them, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, because they expected, with how great the defense was playing, how limited the Pitt offense was, that they would continue to get the ball back and probably get in good field position.
Yeah.
Now, there was a miscalculation. Pitt got a couple more explosives than they planned on,
Yeah.
which is going to happen over the course of a game. I thought they were a little too kind of lackadaisical with their making those possessions count. And it almost bit them. The quality shined through in the end. But I'm with you, Adam. There was I want to talk about defense first. We're already talking about the offense. Just let it ride. There was a hesitancy from Jordan to run the ball, to throwing it at the last minute. I think that he settled into the game. I think once he realized that he was going to have to be the guy, and he hit some really high level throws. His numbers: 22 of 36, 360 yards, 1 touchdown through the air, 1 on the ground. He helped you win this game because his receivers were not getting separation at all. Credit to Ja'Kai Douglas for having a nice catch. Credit to Kyle Morlock for having a nice catch and run afterwards. Credit to the Biscuit Man for sometimes when those guys are that wide open, those catches are tougher than they look. But yeah, the seas parted and they forgot he looked like an offensive tackle, and they didn't read 85. But
they did do a really nice job of going spread empty and getting those guys the ball in the middle of the field, which we saw a ton of from like Cam McDonald last year with not a lot of success for various reasons. But we've kind of talked about that a little bit too. Like, hey, empty, spread the field. Let's see some of those zone beaters in the middle of the field. They were able to get those with, obviously the Kyle Morlock was out of empty. He breaks a tackle or 2 tackles or whatever, guys run into each other, and he's taken off for 65 yards. Like, it was nice that they were able to kind of get some of those zone beaters, those plays open and available, get the ball to the tight ends and let them be explosive in the middle of the field. Like, I don't know, reflecting on it right now in my head, like how the game kind of played out, like it feels like you were really close to blowing them out, but you were really close to getting not upset, but like this being a lot closer than it really needed to be.
You were on the track to an upset if you didn't do what you do in every single game, where you wear them out, you play all those guys, and then especially with the way the defense was playing, it would just getting Pitt to get into double digits it would be a tough task for them. Kev, what'd you think of the offensive game plan? What'd you think of the play of Jordan Travis? And is this a game where it makes you worried for the rest of the season, or is it just an aberration going on the road and absolutely a field that just looked like my face? It just was like churned your stomach, just absolutely atrocious. It was an ugly, gross, unkempt field, terrible environment. Without Keon and Johnny, do you just kind of throw it away as an aberration? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of criticism over like the play calling, and we've done our own fair share of criticizing the play calling, and I think that it's a kind of offense that can be frustrating at times because it's one that's built on explosives, right? They're trying to hit that deep ball, so you'll see 2 or 3 drives in a row where they get 1 first down and it kind of stalls out because they don't hit that shot. It's frustrating to watch it but that's the DNA of the offense. And we've seen it be a legitimate top 10 offense all year. And it's felt frustrating at times, but I would caution you to criticize the play calling too much. You just really didn't have your weapons. You didn't have your receivers.
No.
Good receivers win football games in the modern football era, right? Ohio State is the #1 team in the country. And a big part of that is because their quarterback can be absolute garbage and Marvin Harrison's going to bail him out, right? So
look at Missouri, like even a team that has like kind of like middling pieces surrounding them, a kid like a Luther Burden, like that's enough. That's enough to take Missouri to like a 7-8 win like team. Like, you're right, dude. It's becoming different than it used to be. Having an elite top of the mountain wide receiver, that is a difference maker. That is a huge war. He's a war machine, a wins above replacement machine.
Yeah, this team looked a lot like Florida State 2 years ago tonight, just offensively, because you just didn't have anybody that was winning one-on-ones on the outside. And when that's the case, when teams can one-on-one on you on the outside and you're not going to be able to consistently just torch them with that, well, they can load up the box and keep you from running the football. So, like, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. I think they could have schemed up some more man beaters and kind of been like, we don't have a lot of wide receivers, so we're going to be a little creative here. And I do think they had some creative flair, but at the end of the day, this is a game I think you were expecting to walk in even with your second string wide receivers and be able to win fairly comfortably. You put a lot of trust on your defense. I think that they didn't want to they're not going to install a whole new playbook to play Pitt with second string receivers.
Yeah.
You're going to do what you do. You're going to stick to your guns and you're going to say, we're going to beat this mediocre team with our second string guys who are going to be our first string guys next year. So like,
and credit to them. They did it.
The game planning and the play calling, I think there's some criticism to be weaved in there, especially as the game got close later on. But I don't think that it's like this huge thing of like the sky is falling. It's different with Keon.
I don't think people understand how difficult it is to call plays too when you are not blocking people. Like it's not easy when you can't say, all right, I'm going to be able to do this because we can do this. They're not blocking people that well enough to be able to rely on their run game and go out there and hang their hat on something. So then what do you hang your hat on? Slot fades to Ja'Kai Douglas? Like if Keon or Johnny are there, then you've got another big star athlete out on the outside that you can hang your hat on by getting him the football. And teams have to game plan for them. You know what they game plan for today? Stop Jordan Travis. Don't let him beat you with his legs. Don't let him get going. Don't let the ground game get going. And we're going to man up these wide receivers and see if they can beat us. I mean, that's what it really kind of boiled down to. So as far as play calling goes, like, yeah, I mean, I get it. Are there one or two? Like, I didn't love the flea flicker there.
Yeah.
It got you out of field goal position. Like, I thought points there were more important than trying to get a touchdown. But I mean, as far as over the course of the football game, like, guys are going to have bad play calls. Those happen. But when teams are able to just stuff the box and you can't move people, there's no master game plan for that stuff. I mean, you're just kind of going to have to figure it out. And they figured it out as the game went on.
I think this is a perfect example of why you see Mike Norvell so in love with verticality and explosiveness, because you can see how teams can defend an offense full of some pretty talented people and a very, very good quarterback at the college level when they do not respect your explosive play capability. They can defend the crap out of you, dude, and they can be very aggressive and they can gain confidence over the course of it. So it's not even just missing Keon and Johnny, their production, like the passes that they would have caught, the touchdowns that they would have made. It's just their mere presence on the field that allows Pitt to call their defense 100% differently.
Yeah. The pure schematical standpoint, the schematic difference that they make for you. I mean, how many times have we seen Keon getting bracketed? That means there's only 9 other guys to play defense with because 2 of them are on him. Well, that means there's only so many dudes you could put in the box because you're going to have Johnny on the other side. And guess what? They might bracket him or you're going to get solo coverage on him. Like solo coverage on Johnny versus solo coverage on Kentron, who hasn't been right this year. I don't know what's going on, so don't even bother asking, is he hurt? I don't know. But there's a hell of a big difference there. And when you've got a guy getting bracketed, and now they can't roll an extra safety down in the box to stop Jordan with the run game or to load the box to stop the run game, it makes a big difference. And
I agree.
The offensive line isn't good enough to play a 7 or 6 on 8 football against a quarters team, which is what they got the majority of the night.
Absolutely. Pitt was able to play the numbers game because they didn't respect you over the top. The safeties were. You heard those kids' names called all night. That McMillan kid, all those guys were extremely involved in run stuffs. Yeah. And I think that, like I said, there were some things they need to clean up. Man, with those 2 guys in the game, this goes 1,000% differently. And hopefully you're going to have them in for these next 3 games. So the whole season's going to go 1,000% differently. Let's shift to the defense. Pitt's offense is garbage. And I think Florida State's defense made them look even more so. They were suffocating on the night. Great effort from the defensive line. I thought the linebackers had a really good game. I thought Kalen DeLoach, Tatum Bethune, but the one that really stood out to me was DJ Lundy. I thought he had a fantastic game. And then for the most part, I think your secondary did a very good job. They were able to attack Fentrell Cypress a couple times, like after the catch in the run game, things like that, a couple coverage busts. But I mean, even on one of the big plays, man, massive play by Cypress to strip the ball in the end zone. That's huge. That's winning football. That's never given up on a play. That's somebody that's another part of the culture, somebody that's bought in. Kev, what did you think of the defensive effort? Were there any particular players, a unit that stood out to you? I thought it was just a great effort, and they were the biggest component of this win today, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mediocre offense, but that quarterback, when he's on, has arm talent, and he was able to torch a decent Louisville defense, just in the right circumstances, and he was making some good throws early. I think Florida State at the beginning of the game thought that they could kind of speed him up, bring pressure, be aggressive, kind of live that life that they've had so much success with over the past few weeks. But they had a coverage bust. They weren't getting to the quarterback as quickly as they were, I think, hoping they could with that extra pressure. And
what are you laughing about? What was that?
Well, somebody said just say Fisk. Fisk was a bad dude in this game.
Yeah.
He is every game, to be honest. He's a good ball player.
Yeah, he's a monster.
I think they were early on. I think they were aggressive early on. I think that Pitt hit, that one shot play because they were aggressive, couldn't get to the quarterback. I think they kind of weighed that extra pressure wasn't getting there. He's getting rid of the ball, and they kind of backed off. I wouldn't be surprised to see the second half split on blitzes being a lot lower in the second half, because they just figured we're going to let, Verse and Peyton get pressure, and we're going to just cover people up. And they did that. And I think that it really worked. And, Pitt really didn't have anything on the ground or in the air. And outside of, if you take that one, so their stats say they had 6 yards per play. And really it's just that 81 yard play that's skewing those statistics. They didn't even have a lot of plays this game. This was actually a pretty short game in terms of plays played. And so, I think some of the stats are going to make it look like Pitt had a better game than they had. I mean,
you had a couple flags that extended a couple drives from Pat. Peyton had 2 flags, specifically a roughing the passer penalty and an illegal hands penalty that allowed them to get a few extra touches on drives. But I thought
bad punts too. The special teams had a bad day. The kick out of the end zone, a couple bad punts. Pitt had a lot better. They had a lot better field position than they deserved.
Pull up game on paper, Kev, so people can look at it. But I also they should have had at least 4 picks today. Like balls just flying by guys' hands. Like I think I said it a couple times. Like at some point they're going to get one of these that goes to them, and they ended up. I mean, it ended up happening. Conrad Hussey was the man on the spot in the right position and got one.
I think there's a bug here. I don't think our average starting field position was on their 0 yard line.
I don't think so.
We defaulted to a touchdown.
Pitts was definitely not on their own one. That's interesting.
Looking at the team stats, I mean,
4.83 plays per drive. Like, holy crap, dude! Like that's a dominant performance.
It really is. And then if you take a look at it, EPA per play, purple's bad, green's good. Every single play they ran, Pitt was in the purple. Florida State had a very middling performance on offense. Success rate was okay. Yards per play, not bad.
Their
yards
EPA
per
drop back is good. Like that's not bad.
But the rush,
8th percentile, you'll take that.
It's killing them. It is absolutely killing them
on offense. Florida State's offensive running game was 13th percentile for all games this season.
Pitt was a middling EPA rush. What was success rate? Go down to like the running. I'm curious, like some of the Havoc stuff.
Okay, so Havoc rate.
No.
So terrible. So this was kind of telling. I saw this earlier. So they do a calculation of what's called offensive line yards, and that's essentially like how many yards before contact. And they beat Florida State. Pitt beat Florida State in offensive line yards at 1.6 yards per play versus 1.2. So you were losing that offensive line battle. I think some scheme played into that as well. But yeah, I mean, 1.24 offensive line yards per carry is not good enough.
How much is the big run kind of boost some of these numbers? Which I mean, the big run counts. But
I mean, if you take they do stats without the explosive plays. So without explosive plays, when passing, you're at -6, which is kind of makes sense because most of the passes were downfield. But without the explosive play rushing, you had -15 estimated points average added. So you basically lost 15 points every time you handed the ball off outside of that, or over the course of the game. You lost half a point every time you handed the ball off.
Not great, but this is an offense that the foundation is built on explosivity. So obviously these numbers are going to be more dramatic than any other teams. However, that's telling in your eyes, and the numbers matched up. They had a hell of a time running the football, but I don't know how many teams in the country are going to be able to consistently run the football when there's 8 or 9 guys flying into the box, when you got safeties flying in. Like the type of defense that Pitt got to play, because they weren't worried about anything on the outside, is not a defense that you can play against Florida State any other week. So I don't want to dismiss it. And I think that the ceiling of the offense is the offensive line. I think that's the ultimate ceiling. But this was such an extreme outlier game for the way that Pitt could play. Like that havoc rate, the offensive line didn't play good, but a lot of that havoc rate is because of the blitzing and the pressures, right?
Malik Neighbors, huge touchdown. I would agree with you. Yes, it was an outlier as far as game plan stuff, but it wasn't an outlier for performance for the offense.
The same offenders, the same people we talk about every week.
I think that's why it's concerning, is because it just has continued to rear its ugly head, and it doesn't. I guess it's not going anywhere. Maybe we'll see that it is when you have Keon and Johnny back. I hope that that's the case. I'm curious against Miami what that looks like. So we're gonna get some answers, and I want to look at it on film. When we do film review this week, and it's not always on the offensive line. A lot of times, we sit here, we talk in the post game, and we say, "Oh, the offensive line didn't do good," and then sometimes it's on the tight ends. We've seen plenty of games where perimeter blocking wasn't good, tight end blocking wasn't good. Jordan should have kept the ball. They should have pulled on and thrown the RPO, whatever. So it's not totally fair to put all the blame at the feet of the offensive line here. We'll figure that out as we get into film, but it does continue. It does continue. We said it in the preseason when we were talking about the offensive line, and we've continued to say it since game 2, really, when Trey killed me for being negative. But dang it, it played itself out, unfortunately.
You're 9-0, so you're not.
Yeah,
you're 9-0, so you were still a little bit negative, but you were on to something. I can even acknowledge that you were on to something. It's one of those deals where not only did you miss 2 of the best receivers in the country, you missed the best perimeter blocking receiver in the country, and a dude in Keon Coleman who he's probably 2 of the best. He's got a fun little highlight reel. He is, dude. Yeah. He's just powered by McChickens and Oreo if you guys ever see it, like his pregame meal from McDonald's is absolutely psychotic.
Dude.
I love it. Dude.
Oreo McFlurry,
2 hot and spices with cheese,
spicy with cheese,
extra mayo, a 10-piece nug, and a medium fry.
I can't imagine, how is he not crapping his brains
and
out?
Probably honestly a like a large McDonald's Sprite on top of it for jet fuel.
All right, well, here's the bottom line, Trey. I think you said the best thing. They're 9-0. And bottom line, like I've seen some stuff, people are, why didn't Mike punch it in there for cute points and all? They're 9-0. You're locked into the ACC championship game. You've got Miami coming to town with a big game and a big recruiting weekend and an opportunity to continue to plant your flag as the best team in the state. Like, the college football playoff crap just doesn't matter right now.
No,
it'll matter in 3 weeks. It's going to matter in 3 weeks. Right now, wins are the bottom line, because if you go undefeated, you're locked in.
It might matter for this week, for the fake rankings that come out this week. It's a week-to-week thing, but guys,
Washington.
Washington
played like crap the last 3 weeks.
It doesn't. Yeah. It's whatever. You might get mad on Tuesday when the rankings come out, but ultimately it doesn't. Stacking up the wins matter. You're in the in game now. You're basically, if you're a basketball head, you're in the March tournament.
I like it.
This was the tough game against Vermont, like the 4 or the 3 and the 14 seed, and 2 of your best players are out, and you beat them by 10, but you were kind of losing into the second half. It don't matter, dude. Stack the wins. The wins are what matter.
Florida just took a big fat L in overtime to Arkansas today, like
in front of some good receivers. You don't want that to happen.
Could be doing that garbage. Yeah, and both those good receivers are going to be in Tallahassee next weekend. So
Kev, we don't normally do this on the instant reaction, but I'm going to do a little bit of a change just to end it because we are into rivalry week. And like I said, being the calm, cool, analytical mind, you absolutely despise Miami. What do you think about FSU's? Like, just give me your initial thoughts. I want you to kickstart Miami hate week and just kind of give me your initial thoughts on what you're thinking about Miami in this matchup and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can look at Miami's stats throughout the year, and I'm going to talk about this more in my preview video, but you can basically draw a line after the month of October, and in the month of October they were a top 10 offense, and the month of November they were a below average offense against not good defenses outside of Clemson. And then you look at the teams they played in October, and it was, you know, Temple and it was essentially nobody in Texas A&M. And it turns out that Texas A&M game looks more and more every week to be a complete anomaly. I do not think that they have anywhere near a top 25 offense. I think that they have probably a top 25 defense. We're talking top 50, 60 offense. I don't think they're that much better than the Pitt team we played today. You just kind of flip. Like, I think the offense is a little bit better than Pitt's offense, but I don't think their defense is much better than Pitt's defense. I mean, they got some defensive tackles, but I think Pitt's secondary is better. I don't think Miami is a very good football team. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Oh, hot take.
Unless they like go out and prove me wrong and say that like if they show out against NC State tonight and prove to me that the Texas A&M game was not an anomaly, then I'll believe in Miami's a legitimate threat to come into Doak Campbell Stadium.
Fantastic. I love starting off that way. Kev, you're the best. Stay tuned. His previews are the best. It'll be great. We've got just a fat week of content on Noles 24/7. Biggest recruiting in-game weekend of the year. Awesome previews from Kev. Going to do a little Nole Thy Enemy on the bench. Is going to be cracking and just firing off on all cylinders as always. Adam's going to be on the board insulting people and giving just great analysis. Everybody is amped for Miami Hate Week. It's going to rule. And if you're not on Noles247.com, you're a nerd and a loser, and you won't get to experience any of it. And everybody's going to be pointing at laughing at you. So don't be a laughing stock anymore. Quit being a clown. Join Noles 24/7 and come hang out with the best of the best of the best. Florida State is 9-0. All of you are 9-0. We appreciate the support. We love you. I'm supposed to give my mother a shout out. Mom, love you. Hope you're having fun in Madison Social. Having as much white zen as that place can accommodate. You
fire up the TBE.
You earned it because you raised me. Love you. Battlesend.com. Throw the money right now, and we'll see you guys next week. Keep chopping. 9-0.